In today's video, we're going to break down the philosophy of the Matrix, and we're going to talk about Neo's journey. Now, this is probably, undoubtedly, the most symbolic, spiritual, philosophically symbolic movie ever created. You can see everything from Hinduism, the Bible, everything in between. This is one of the most incredible movies ever made when you really slow down and look at all the numbers they use and the symbols and where they're sourced from. It is an incredible movie. A lot of people do say this Neo's journey is a great example of the hero's journey, which Joseph Campbell talks about, which is kind of like, he says that every Avengers movie, Batman, Superman, has all got that same kind of storyline. I believe it's more similarly or more closely followed to the Dark Knight of the Soul journey, and I'm going to explain why. And really, Neo's journey is not about him being the one and going to save mankind as the one. I believe it is more symbolic of our own ego death, spiritual journey. They call it the Dark Knight of the Soul, and this is what we all have to face. And we're going to talk through the different points of the Dark Knight of the Soul, because I believe it's the journey we all need to go through to be our own one in our own life, on our own journey. So the Dark Knight of the Soul always starts out with someone that's really just seeking more. They're kind of unhappy, dull, in the Matrix, maybe even a little bit depressed. You get that loss of meaning of life, maybe even loss of purpose, desire, exactly what I've had in periods, and you just feel that nothingness. Now, Keanu Reeves in this movie obviously plays Neo, and he's a computer programmer, and he's white skinned, he's very dull, he's sitting on his screen, and he looks very low on chi and life force. And what happens to him in this movie is the screen pops up and it said, and the seeking more is him. He's been asking himself the question, what is the Matrix? And he's looking for more to life. He sees beyond, kind of like Morpheus says later in the movie, you've known it your entire life, something's not quite right with the world. So he's been seeking more. He gets kind of guided through by following the White Rabbit. He's taken on this journey. And what's interesting in this journey is he's connected with, I think it's Morpheus or Trinity at the time, I think it's Morpheus on the phone. He doesn't take that advice, that guide's advice, and he's captured. He doesn't trust. And he kind of has his first ego death here in the movie. He has another one, he dies later in the movie, which is super symbolic and important, which we'll talk about shortly. So that's kind of the start of the Dark Knight of the Soul, is we're seeking more, kind of empty, depressed, and then we have the ego death. He has the ego death when he meets Morpheus, and he is exposed to what is the Matrix. And obviously the most famous scene in the movie is presented the red pill and the blue pill. Take the blue pill, go back to sleep, and, continue to live in La La Land, or take the red pill and find out what's beneath, enter the Matrix, find the truth. Obviously, he takes the red pill, which there's many symbols of this scene. You could argue that it's very shamanic in he's meeting the shaman, he's taking plant medicine, which heightens his senses, and he's able to see the truth on psychedelics, which you could run a very strong case for. That is the meaning of this really crucial scene. Also, it's kind of the moment where we all face, do we just kind of live in this matrix, we listen to the media, we go to work, we work hard to pay for our mortgage and go on a couple of holidays and die, or do we seek more? Do we seek the truth about maybe government or spirit? Are we spiritual beings having a human experience? Or do we just go, oh no, science doesn't explain that, blinkers on and go about it? So it's very symbolic in many, many ways here. And then why I do think it's very shamanic in its, or plant medicine symbolic of that, is he goes into the simulation with Morpheus and he's able to learn Kung Fu and pick up speed and able to learn no mind. This is very relevant to me because I learned to meditate, to release all my desires under the influence of psychedelics. So I definitely see the movie as taking that turn. So the next part of Dark Knight of the Soul is we have the ego death. He realizes the Matrix it's all just a construct. There is something deeper. So his ego, his ideologies of the world are shattered of what he knows. And often that's what we need to go through, and that's why the Dark Knight of the Soul is beautiful, because we have the ego death. We leave that behind like a snake shedding its skin, and then we're able to turn a corner. We then find the master. We free the mind. And Morpheus talks a lot about freeing the mind. So the beautiful thing here is as he learns to free the mind, he enhances all his skills. He's able to move quickly, he's able to move more calmly, and basically go superhuman. There's a lot of symbolism behind here of when we begin to slow down, we become to meditate, we become in a flow state, we're able to shapeshift to a degree. And we can go into the the depths of that on another video, but it is believed in, for example, Taoism, that when you're in harmony with flow and truly connected with the Tao, nothing can do you any harm. You won't be approached by robbers or an animal. You'll just live in this harmonic state, and there's a protection. This comes up again later in the movie. So then he's been on the ego death. He doesn't trust the advice of this guide. It ends in tears. Luckily, he gets through. He takes the blue pill. He wants to know more. As Morpheus says in the movie, you've known it your entire life. Something's not quite right with the world. And I think we all feel that, especially in the year 2022, after the last 3 years. Even people that chose the blue pill are going, there's something fishy here. This walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. I think this thing might be a duck. That's a story for another day. And the Matrix can be very symbolic of this whole conspiracy, New World Order as well, which is not the message of the movie that I'm seeing, or not in this video anyway. And then what's really magical about the movie is he has to open his mind, and then he has to go on the journey of belief in the self. And he goes through this period of, is he the one? The Oracle says he is the one, he isn't the one, and he has to go through this journey of discovering, and he doesn't believe he is the one. Morpheus does. Morpheus believes in him. Trinity believes. Everyone else is kind of on the fence. And he goes through these different exercises and journeys, and he slowly starts to believe. And he starts to step into his power. And I think there's a great scene in the movie where he's kind of always on the run from Agent Smith. And then there's the point in the movie where it stops and he's not on the run anymore. He turns, he faces the demon, and I think it's movie 1, he does the old come and get me type scene. And this is another deeply symbolic moment in the movie about freeing the mind, or ego death of what you thought life was, freeing the mind, learning these new skills, learning how to work with the universe and reality, maybe the mystical, and then stepping into your self-belief, believing in the self and facing your demons. So this is an amazing part in the movie. And then he dies again, where I believe he's shot in one of the last scenes in Matrix number 1. This is all based on the first movie, by the way. So he's shot, he dies, and Trinity basically comes in to save him, and he's basically brought back to life through the kiss of Trinity, which is, you could say, is very symbolic of opening the heart. And this is the journey I've definitely had to go through of ego death, freeing the mind, believe in my path, the self, and being able to open the heart that we shot off to the world. So Trinity really opens his heart, and he's brought back to life through the power of love. And it's very symbolic that love is the most powerful force on the universe. It can save you from death. I think the bullets drop out of him, and he's able to go on. And then once he's been on this journey, he stops the bullets, pulls them out of thin air. And there's a great scene in the movie where I think Morpheus says, he says, does that mean I can dodge bullets? And Morpheus says, I'm saying you won't have to. And this again is back to that first point. In the Tao, they believe when you're truly living in your spirit and your true nature with an open heart in harmony, no one can do you any harm. But when you're also, the other sort of angle you could do it from spiritual terms is when you're in silence, no mind, open heart, and you're connected to the universe, you can have telepathic effects. You can almost shape and move and create energy fields within yourself. So that's a whole nother interpretation of the movie, which I think's great for us, because when we do live spiritual lives, we can do mystical things. When we're in deep meditation, in belief, in spirit, on path, it is like stuff starts to move. It is like mountains seem to move for us, and we can tweak people. So that's the kind of powers of that. And then what's also really interesting in that last scene is before he dodges the ball or stops the bullets, he takes the big full breath. And it's been known since the beginning of time that the breath is really our connection to these superpowers, to the mystical, to life force. And it's where we generate all our powers from. And then obviously, if you skip to the end of the movie, he ends up flying off. And there's a great last scene which just has a great message for life, just about anything being possible. So that's my breakdown of the Matrix. I believe he goes through the dark night of the soul. He has to free the mind. He has to believe in the self. He has to face these challenges. He has to open his heart. And then he gets to work with the mystical through breath and through this whole journey. And he's able to save the world. Obviously, we're on our own journey of oneness. And I believe we all need to free the mind of all these constructs of attachment, judgment, trying to force. We suffer a lot because of the mind. Not many of us live with an open, warm heart anymore. There's not a lot of self-belief. So this is the journey of ourselves. This is our own version of the hero's journey that many of us have to go on. So I watch that movie now and just see it as one of the most inspirational movies I've ever seen. When initially I more saw it for the anti-establishment, the New World Order type video or movie, where now I really see it for that inspirational journey that we all have to embark on. We have to step up